Good morning. My name is Karen Jernigan. It's Monday, March 18th, 2019, and we are here in the Bitterwater Valley near King City, California, to have a conversation with Roberta Oswald about her knowledge of King City, the town where she was raised, and the Bitterwater area east of King City, where she has spent most of her life. We are doing this on behalf of the San Antonio Valley Historical Association. So first, I'm going to ask Roberta to state and spell her full name for the record.
My full name?
Yes.
Roberta Ruth Oswald.
Okay. Roberta.
Roberta, Ruth, Ruth, Oswald, Oswald.
Okay. And I want to make sure we have permission to use this recording to educate people about history. So, Roberta, do we have your permission to share this information with others interested in history?
Yes, you may.
Wonderful. Okay, we are conducting this interview at 49731 Airline Highway between Bitterwater Road and Lone Oak Road. This is Roberta's home, and she is seated in her favorite chair.
My lazy boy.
In her room. And in the room with us is videographer John Jernigan. And we have two guests today. We have Janet Oswald, who is Roberta's niece, and we have Ruth Record, who shares this house with her.
And has for how many years, Ruth?
Since 1965.
Wow, that is a long time. I'm going to have to learn how to do my math to figure out how many years that is.
94. Oh, no.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Roberta, what is the date of your birth?
5/6/1927. I'm 91 years old. Going to be 92 come May 6th. Me and Willie Mays.
So May the 6th, 1927.
Right.
Okay, and where were you born?
Uncle Jim's Canyon, right here in Bitterwater.
Wow.
And the midwife was Ramona Schmidt.
So which direction is Uncle Jim's cabin from
Here?
here?
About 3 miles north.
3 miles north, okay. And who was Uncle Jim?
Chambers, one of the Chambers.
And a canyon is named after him, huh?
Right.
And is that where your parents were living, or is that
Yes.
just where? Okay, they were living there.
At
Okay.
that time, yes.
Okay. All right. And what were your parents' full names?
Arthur Robert Oswald, and he was born in Dubuque, Iowa. And he was in the Spanish-American War. And he came here, he was working for the U.S. government during the bubonic plague time, and he was poisoning squirrels. Mom was Ruth Charlotte Zolan, born across from the Bitterwater Lake in the old Zolan home. There were 8 children there in the Zolans. There was Aunt Amy Ingalls, Aunt Eva Mansfield, Aunt Mary Schmidt, Aunt Polly Harbold, Uncle Floyd Zolan, Uncle Joe Zolan, and Uncle Wade Zolan. My mother was the baby of the 8. She met Dad in Tres Pinas at a dance. They were married in Redwood City, and they had 5 children. Owen, Bill, Wade, and myself. They moved here where we are right now in 1928. I was 1 year old. So I've lived in this house for 90 years. My earliest memory of King City. We don't want to go into that now?
Yes, but I do have a couple questions.
Great.
That's great. You're answering all my questions perfectly. So you're obviously Roberta. That name, your second name is after your mother. Do you know where the name Roberta came from?
Right. There were a lot of people named Roberta in Iowa, but my dad's name was Robert.
Oh.
So they added the A
Okay.
for Roberta.
Okay.
And Ruth after my mom.
Okay, great. And I think it's interesting that your dad was working for the government trying to eradicate squirrels. Is that right?
Right.
So every time I drive through this area, and my husband and I often go up to our cabin up at the Indians, where you have to drive through Fort Hunter Liggett. And squirrels are everywhere. And when you read the old newspapers for the Rustler, they're always talking about trying to control the squirrels. But I didn't know anybody who actually worked doing that. So that was your dad, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Squirrels are kind of a
nuisance,
aren't they? You've probably had to fight them all your life.
Right. Well, they go climb the trees and get all of the fruit before we can get it.
So the government obviously must have felt that that was a serious problem enough that they hired people to do that.
I think a lot of people passed away from the bubonic plague.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they carried diseases.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Interesting. So how long did your father do that? Was that his profession all his life, or did he do other things? Was he a farmer?
In the service.
Okay, he was in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he bought this property, did he become a farmer or a rancher, or?
Well, we didn't buy this place from the Leffels, I guess it was, in about 1942 or 43.
Okay.
And we used to raise 1,000 laying hens and 100 pigs, and 20 or 30 cattle. We were very diversified. In fact, one year we had 1,000 turkeys.
1,000 turkeys.
And about 4 o'clock every morning, they'd fly off the roof or their roost, and it would sure make a big noise.
So you lived in this house when you were young. What do you remember about growing up on this piece of property?
Well, I put the fireplace in
and
did a lot of remodeling. This isn't the old original house. In fact, when Brother Bill got out of the service, they did a lot of rebuilding to this house.
Mm-hmm. So it's evolved over the years.
Right.
But this is a pretty amazing setting for a home, to have all these green hills around you, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, but this is a unique year. we didn't get any rain to speak of until January 21st, and it just kept coming and coming and coming, and we've had a little over 17.5 inches
this year.
Mm-hmm.
But normally you would live out here and it'd be pretty dry.
Right. Normal rainfall out here is 8 to 10 inches.
Okay. And yeah, so once the May comes along, everything starts to turn brown, and that's the way it stays.
Right.
So like a whole different world, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
But the fall is pretty.
Yes, it has its own.
As long as we can keep the fires away from here.
Yes, that's an ongoing challenge. Huh?
Right.
So let's talk about your earliest memories. So you grew up out here. We're how many miles away from King City?
19.
19.
Either way.
Okay.
Lone Oak or Bitterwater.
Okay, so you can go either way into King City. So you must have gone to school out here.
I did.
Okay, where did you go to school?
The Bitterwater Tully School for 8 years.
And is it in the same location where it is now? Right.
They tore the old school building down, and it's a new one, but it was that same place.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's right next to Bitterwater Road, just down the.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, from King City to the corner, it's 15 miles. And then you turn right, and
then you're at the
and
school.
I'm 4 miles down the road.
Okay, that's good to know. So you went to was not the school that's there now, it was an older school building.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And how many students were there?
At that time, there were quite a few. I don't remember exactly how many, but the Schmidts had 12 kids, and most of them were in school that time. And then there was the Zolans and Claire Schmidt's family. There was 20 or so, I guess.
So,
And Agnes Tully was the teacher.
okay, that's good to
And
know.
Agnes Tully even taught Ione.
Oh,
She taught up here for years. She had an old Jewett car that she used to haul us to school in. There were no windows in it. Oh gosh, it was cold.
So your teacher would stop by and pick you up and take you to school. How many miles is it from here at your house to the school? Maybe
It's about 4 miles.
4 miles. Okay. So you didn't walk to school.
Oh mercy, no.
And you didn't ride a horse.
No.
But that the teacher would pick you up in the car and take you to school.
Right.
And it was did they have kindergarten, or is it like grade 1 through 8?
1 through 8. And I had to start when I was 5 to keep the school open.
Oh, in order to have enough students?
Right.
Okay. So do you have any memories of going to school at the Bitterwater Tully School? What stands out the most in your mind about going to school there?
Playing kick the can and a whole bunch of different kind of games. Hide and go seek, ante over.
Good. And was it all one room? All the kids of all the grades were
No, there
in
were
one room?
two. There were two.
2 rooms? Okay. All right. And so when you were growing up, did you used to go into King City for shopping, or what did you go to King City for?
For shopping, or if I could talk Dad into going into the movies once in a while to see Judy Garland.
Oh, and would that have been at the Real Joy?
Yep.
And what kind of car did your dad have?
We had a 1935 Ford. Other than that, he had the pickup that he drove the mail in.
Yeah, so tell me about that. You said your dad drove the mail route for a while?
We used to go up to the station, pick up the mail. I can't remember where the heck we went.
You mean like the railroad station?
Right.
Did the mail come on the train?
It came on the train there, and we used to have to go up there and pick it up.
Every day? The mail came every day? And so that would have been in the 1930s.
Right.
You were younger. Okay. So that was kind of during the Depression.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so your dad was that his full-time job doing the mail, or was that just a part-time thing?
Part-time.
Okay.
That kept us eating
I
during
was
the
gonna
Depression.
say, that probably brought you in a paycheck.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when I think of ranching and stuff, my brother Bud sold steers for 5 cents a pound, and they were fed corn, and they were beautiful and fat.
Wow.
5 cents a pound.
Wow. So every day your dad would go in and get the mail, and then sometimes you would ride with him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? And your brothers and sisters too, or just you?
Just me.
Oh, okay. And then he would come back on Bitterwater Road and start delivering the mail?
No. We used to take the mail up through Lewis Creek. There were 68 creek crossings to go through. And we took the mail clear up to Priest Valley.
Wow.
And then when they closed the road there through where all of the crossings were, we used to have to go up the Mustang grade. deliver the mail
Okay,
to Priest Valley.
so your dad would drive into King City to the train station, pick up the mail
Take
that
it
had
to
been
the
delivered,
post office.
take it to the post office. And where was the post office? Do you remember? Because not where it is now.
No, it was on Main Street
Okay, that's what I thought.
next to the cigar store, I guess, about there.
Okay, so they'd sort the mail, then they'd give it back to your dad. He would drive out
And deliver all of the mail.
through here, then go up to the Lewis Creek Road past Tully Hall,
Oh, yeah.
and then up Tully Hall over many creek crossings.
And then deliver quite a few boxes there at Priest Valley.
And all the way then over the hill, past the Eade Ranch, down into Priest Valley
Right.
with the mail.
With the mail. There were people living up Priest Valley, or up Lewis Creek, so
Wow.
Harold and Marie Eade were there.
Right. And then over into Priest Valley and deliver mail, and then come back the same route, or
No.
go back up the Mustang grade?
Right.
Okay. Wow. And that was in the 30s.
Right. And then after Dad passed away in 1951, Brother Bud drove it.
Really?
Then after Brother Bud was gone, Brother Wade drove it. So we had the Bitterwater mail route for a good many years.
So there must have been times when you couldn't cross the creeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just had to wait until it went down.
Right.
Because that's some pretty rugged country.
Right.
There. Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
that's-
there used to be so many slipperies on the Mustang grade too. It would just, on a good wet year, it would really be miserable how they had to clean it up all the time.
Wow. Okay, so you were well acquainted with the railroad station in King City. What else do you remember about King City? I mean, if we start at the railroad station, which is at First and Broadway, do you remember the El Camino Hotel? And
Oh, yeah. Yes, I had a few drinks at the El Camino Hotel.
was there like a bar or a
Oh,
saloon?
yeah. And a
saloon
good
there?
restaurant.
Yeah, what was that restaurant called? Was it the Wagon Wheel?
Yeah, well, that was the bar.
Oh, that was the bar.
The bar was
Okay.
the wagon wheel.
So it was a good
Well-
restaurant, and
It was all the wagon wheel.
and so you would go there and
Yeah, and have a drink or two.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about the cops picking you up like now.
and then do you remember the El Camino garage next to it? Yeah.
I bought my first car from Ken Funk.
Ah.
It was a 1945 Ford, a little coupe. Yep.
And then across the street, we were just looking at some pictures, and you were talking about
Babe Russell,
Babe Russell's Associated gas station.
right across from the wagon wheel. Right.
And there was something they called the curve. Is that right? Where the cars would come in from.
Oh, there was a big tank at the end of Main Street.
Okay.
And we used to go up there and turn around and go down the other way.
So that was Highway 101, the El Camino Real
Exactly,
road.
yeah.
So people would come in South First Street and then come around that curve and
Yeah.
then head down Broadway.
Right.
So what else do you remember on Broadway? So there was the El Camino Hotel, there was the El Camino Garage.
There were so many bars in King City.
So many bars?
Bars.
Really?
Especially during the war, because there was the Black Cat.
Okay.
There was Bob Himes. Of course, there was Pootsie's.
Uh-huh. And Pootsie's is where it is today, on the
Right.
200 block of Broadway on the south side.
Right.
And there was one called the Black Cat.
Black Cat.
And where was that?
Right. Lorena's is there now.
Okay, so it was kind of where what I remember as Nina's Cantina, and
Right.
that corner.
Right.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Well,
And
Edgar Tully used to come to the bank and say, "Pick me up at the blank cat." And I used to bring him home.
was he your relative?
No, he
Oh,
was
just a friend?
one of the Tullys lived over
Oh,
here.
he was your neighbor. Oh,
Right.
okay. All right. So, but the streets were paved then in you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of traffic. Do you remember that?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
And then on the 200 block, there would have been what you said was the movie theater, the Real Joy. And then we talked too about how across the street was the livery stable that
Had a bowling alley.
had a bowling alley upstairs. Did you ever go in that bowling alley?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't remember bowling though there.
And then you said there was another bowling alley over on 3rd Street, North 3rd Street.
Where Eddie Tully used to have his
Yes.
Pacific Valley.
Supply. Yeah.
Supply.
That was an old wooden building, and you said there was a bowling alley in there?
Right. Ma Hobbles bowled 300 in that old
She
bowling
did,
alley. Yep.
huh? Did she own that building, or she just had her bowling alley there? Do you know?
I don't know
Don't
about
know.
that.
Okay. And do you remember? Let's see. No, the Real Joy Theater was built in the 20s, so that was always there when you were growing up.
Right. I have a list.
Good. Go ahead. Why don't you read some of that to us?
Okay. There was Watson's Furniture, Soares Shell Service Station,
Right.
Hall's Chevron Station, Dick Bruin's, ADH Company,
Okay.
Freeman's Incorporated,
Yes.
Lynn's Department Store, Bertelli's Pharmacy, Valley Motors owned by John Davis, Putzie Stampede, King City Dry Cleaners and Laundry, Vanguard Insurance Agency, Lacey's Auto Parts, Pop Williams Candy Wagon,
Now, where would that have been located?
where Winslow is.
Okay, so 300 block of Broadway, right by Vanderhurst, north side of Broadway. Okay.
And he made good candy canes, or not candy canes, but I go blank now and then.
Well, you remember eating the candy, huh?
Well, yeah, we used to stop there. And Turner Chevrolet,
Yes.
Sprouse Ritz, King City Auto Parts, Muir's Furniture, Village TV, The King's Table, Kiefer's Restaurant, Daly's Shoe Store, Jimmy Albanese bought that,
Right.
and Pettit and Tavernetti. Those are all stores that I remember when I got to King City, which wasn't very often.
Yeah. So I think you're most well remembered for the years that you spent at Wells Fargo Bank. But there were some years that led up to that. You obviously went to high school in King City?
Right. I was valedictorian.
Really?
Right.
So what year did you graduate?
1944.
1944.
There's
So
only 5 of my school members alive.
So the King City High School Robert Stanton Theater was opened in 1939. Do you remember that?
Yes.
What do you remember about that? Do you
I-
remember the construction of it?
Yeah.
Did you watch the construction?
Well, as I say, we didn't get to town too much until 1944, and then I rode the bus.
Okay.
The bus picked me up right out here.
Okay. And then you said you graduated in 1944.
Right.
So you would have probably started attending school, high school.
1941.
1941. Okay.
December 7th, I remember sitting in school in class, and Roosevelt declared war on Japan.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
that. And poor Josephine was a bawling her head off because her brother was over there in Hawaii.
Oh. Yeah, that has impact. It's something you never forget.
Oh,
Something like that.
that's right.
So, do you remember anything about your high school years? You would get on the bus in the morning, ride into town, go to school, get on the bus, come back. Did you spend much time in King City, or just mainly going to school?
Just mainly going to school.
And then you had to come back here and feed the turkeys?
No, the boys took care of that.
Oh, okay. Were you involved in any activities at school? Like, were you involved in any clubs or?
What? Go in there and read all of the things off, Janet, please.
All the things you were involved with
All the
in
things
school?
I was involved
Oh, wow.
in. Bring it in. Right there hanging
Well, that's all right.
at the end.
Oh, it must be like a plaque or
It
something,
is.
huh?
Yeah, Brother
Oh,
Bill
wow.
built a plaque for me.
Oh, wow.
Did
All
you-
the things you were involved in.
Right.
Well, we can get it. We can get it afterwards. So, do you remember your high school years as being a happy time or a sad time or a stressful time?
It was a kind of a bad time because everything was rationed.
Oh, okay.
And we couldn't have any football games. We couldn't have any basketball games.
Oh.
No traveling.
No traveling? Oh, for like
For games,
and
yeah.
stuff? Oh,
They never drove the bus anywhere for any games. So it wasn't happy times.
Yeah. And then, do you have some friends still that you made in high school? You said only 5 are left?
Of my classmates.
And who are those 5 that are left? Can you think of their names or some of them that
Francis Bridges,
were? Okay.
Bill Folletta, and they're
Aw.
both in rest homes. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, that's...
Well, there's, oh golly, I can't even remember. Byron Culver down in Paso Robles,
Okay, all right.
and I can't think of who the other 2 are right
So
now.
do you remember graduating from high school?
Being valedictorian,
Yeah?
yes.
In the auditorium? Was it
In the auditorium.
Yeah.
Right. It was nice and new.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to think about that the next time I'm in there, that you were in there giving your valedictorian speech, huh?
Oh, goodness.
Did you give a speech as a valedictorian?
Yeah, and in those days, believe me, I had to memorize it.
Oh, my
Now
lands.
And I got to about the first sentence and I went blank.
Well, I can understand that. That's easy to do.
Oh, boy, I still hate public speaking. Everybody should take public speaking in school.
Yep, it's the number one fear of people.
Right.
Is public speaking. So if you can master that, that's good. Okay, so when you graduated from high school, then what did you do? Did you go to work? Did you go to college?
I went to work at the ration board.
The ration board.
I picked up every stick in the yard here, and I got tired of being here in Bitterwater. I went to town,
Okay.
and they said they were looking for somebody at the ration board, so they hired me. And then after the war, I went to work for the House of Electronics. It was owned by Walt Lumley and Alice Stona.
Okay, so can you tell me about the ration board? That was obviously before my time. What did you do at the ration board, and
I
where
was
was
secretary.
it? And where was it? Did it meet in a building, or it was like an office where people had got? What did you do at the ration board?
Well, as I say, I was secretary. Vernie Cavalli was the head honcho. Bess Burns volunteered a lot. But gas was rationed, red meat was rationed, sugar was rationed, shoes were rationed, stockings were rationed. Everything was rationed.
So you gave out like coupons or tickets or something?
Yeah,
And so people could come to the ration board
and apply.
and then you would say, okay, you can have so much sugar,
Right.
you can have so much of whatever was being rationed. Interesting. So did that was a job where you went like at 8 in the morning and you left at 5 at night?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So how many years did you do that?
Not very long because the war ended
Okay.
in 45.
Okay.
So about a year, I guess. Yeah.
So then you had to look for other work and you went to the
House of
Electronics. I haven't heard of that. Where would that have been?
across from what is the post office now. That building there.
Okay, so that would have been Bassett at 3rd Street.
Right.
Where Buttons and Bows used to be on
Right.
that corner across from the Episcopal Church?
Right.
Okay. And what did they sell? Radios and
Electronics or washing machines, dryers,
Oh.
freezers.
Uh-huh. And what was your job there?
Selling stuff.
Were you good at it? Did you like it?
Yeah, well, till they closed. And then I went to work for Hal Pitt. He was down where, well, the truck stop there on First and Canal. Not-
First and Division?
Division, not
First
Canal.
and Division, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And he, well, what did he do? I was secretary for him too.
Okay.
But they would haul fish from the wharf,
Oh.
loads of fish,
Mm-hmm.
down to LA, I guess. And then they'd come back and load up with tomatoes and take them to Hunt's in San Jose.
Wow.
So I stayed there. He wanted me to go down south and work, and I did not want to do that. So I ended up going to Monterey County Trust and Savings Bank. On December 1st, 1948, I went to work there. And Amy Lou Schmidt, my cousin, filled out my application. And Wes McKinsey was the manager, and he hired me.
And what type of job did you do
I
there?
was secretary there.
You were a secretary. So,
No.
You were a
excuse
teller?
me. I was a bookkeeper.
a bookkeeper. Okay.
Right. we
So, do you remember, what do you remember about applying for that job? Was it just that you wanted to do something different and they had an opening?
They
Or?
had an opening, and my cousin was getting married and leaving, so
Oh.
there was going to be an opening. So she says, "Come up, I'll fill out your application for you, and I'll get Wes to hire you." So that's what happened. And Bill Dye taught me how to run the posting machine, and I was posting the very day I went there.
So that building was a pretty historic building at the corner of 3rd and Broadway,
Right,
north side. It's now a pizza parlor,
right.
but it wasn't that old. Well, 1948. It was.
That's when I
20
went to work.
Yeah,
there.
that was 20 years old then.
Yeah.
But what do you remember about that building? When you worked there, was it a good place to work? Or a lot of people came there. Monterey Savings and
You know, I think, if I'm not right, King City was only about 2,500 people
okay.
at that time.
So you knew most of the people?
Used to know everybody in town. Now I don't know anyone.
Well, you know a few people, and at least a few people know you, that's for sure.
I know more in the cemetery than I do out now.
Oh, well, I can understand that. That's what happens after a while.
Right.
So, okay, so you went to work at 1948 at it was the bank, and then eventually it became Wells Fargo, right? It
No.
changed.
It became something else
In between, okay.
in
all right.
between,
And then it became Wells Fargo.
and then it became Wells Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
Became Wells Fargo what, in 1961, I think it was.
Okay. And so then you...
We moved to where we are now in 1969.
Okay. So how many years were you with Wells Fargo?
44.
Oh, my land.
Well, all of the banks.
Yeah, so...
44 years, right. And they were a good 44 years. Banking has really changed.
Uh-huh.
Well, everything has.
Well, everything has changed. But what do you, when you say those were good years, what about banking was good? What did you enjoy about it?
Helping people with their money.
Was it mainly individual families or was it businesses as well?
Both.
So you did both?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both. Mm-hmm. I remember Janet Butchwright coming in. She could barely say over the counter. She said, I want to start my savings account for my wedding.
Aww. Yeah, that's how you touch people's lives. So you worked there for 44 years in the old and the new building, and then what year did you retire?
1992. They gave me a big party. Were you there?
I have to think I must have been, but
I
yeah.
didn't want a party.
You didn't want a party, but they...
I did not want a party. And Linda Randall and insisted that I have a party. They sold tickets like crazy.
Well, that's a lot of years, 44 years to work in a bank. So,
right.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to take a break.
Fine.
And so let's stop for a minute. Okay, so here we go. All right, so we're going to continue our interview with Roberta Oswald. And so let me take you back a few years and touch on a couple of topics. I would like to hear the story about the eggs that your father sold in town. So he would... tell me a little bit about that.
Tell you a little bit about
Yeah, so your dad had a hen house out here, huh?
Yeah. Well, the chicken house is still here. It was
Oh, cool.
1,000 feet. Anyhow, the first chicken house blew over. It was over here.
Oh.
And in 1937, the wind got it.
Oh. So he sold the eggs in town to one of the markets?
H.P. Fanning.
H.P. Fanning.
Right.
Okay.
Every Saturday night, usually, Mom and Dad would go to town and take the eggs and then grocery shop.
Oh, with the money they got
With
for
the
the
money.
eggs?
Right. And Dad never took any money from Fanning. He just took it out in trade.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And where was that Fanning market? That was on Broadway or was it on 3rd Street?
It was 3rd
Okay.
Street.
I think at one time Fanning's was on Broadway, but then they moved to 3rd Street.
I can't remember him being on Broadway.
I think that was kind of a common thing, that bartering that people would do back then instead of exchanging money. So, okay, so then your sister Ione She
Yes.
lived in town,
Right.
She was married to
Llewellyn Tully.
Okay. And she lived on King's Place,
Right.
which is pretty close to the high school. So you spent
Exact-
some time there?
I spent lots of Friday nights there, going to a dance or going to a basketball game. And I'd wake up Saturday morning and I'd have to polish leaves on her trees inside.
What do you mean polish leaves?
On the plants.
Oh, she made you kind of like pay for your room and board, huh?
Right, right.
So this is a plaque here that has
Brother
some of
Bill
your-
made that for me so I could display all of my things that I was in. This was for yell leading. This was for band, and these were sports, and this was a lifetime member in what? I can't read it anymore.
Yeah.
What does it say there?
It says for God and country,
Oh.
and it's got a, I don't know, it's like medallion. Oh, maybe it was for scholarship for
Probably.
being studious. So you were a yell leader for the football team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Football, basketball.
Uh-huh. And then you were in the band, you played the trumpet?
Right.
Yeah. And do you remember the band teacher?
Oh,
It's a hard question, huh?
right.
Were you was it
I
a
had a case on him, but I can't remember it now.
was it a marching band? Were you
Yeah.
in parades downtown
Yeah.
and stuff? Yeah. That's cool. And you still have your trumpet?
Yeah.
You ever play it?
No. I don't have enough wind now.
And then your sports.
Right.
So you were a softball player, is
Right.
that? Yeah, in school, and then beyond, you played like in city leagues and stuff, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah, you
We
like
we
baseball?
traveled.
Oh, you were on a traveling team?
Yes. Elmer Tognetti was the manager, and we used to travel to Oakland, to Sacramento, to Fresno, different places playing softball.
Cool.
In fact, we were runner-ups in the state championship.
Kind of makes me think that you were pretty physically fit and athletic.
Right. I was. I still would be if they didn't find out I had arthritis in my right knee.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to get old, isn't it, after you've been so active all your life. And then you used to be a bowler too, right? You
Right.
went bowling.
Right.
And was that down at the ranch lanes, down by where the street light is?
Right.
Yeah. You remember when the ranch house lanes went in and opened up?
Right.
Yeah. You had a team?
Yep. Well, I did a lot of bowling. One time we bowled as long as we could. We had a tournament for long bowling. I won that.
Ooh, wow. I mean, you went like hours and hours and hours and bowled, just bowled.
I've got a lot of plaques and stuff up in the attic of the garage.
I remember that was bowling was kind of a big thing in the 60s and the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And
If they would have built 8 lanes instead of 16,
yeah,
I think they could have made it.
could have kept it going.
Yeah.
So now it's a doctor's office or a
Right.
clinic. We don't have a bowling alley in town.
No
So
more.
you said Ruth was on your team, and Elmer Tognetti and Red Davis?
Right.
And you bowled
Friday nights.
Friday night, huh? Down at the ranch lanes, huh?
Right. They had a good restaurant there, too. We used to eat there on Friday nights. We didn't stay open till 6 like they do now at the bank. We got off at 3.
Oh, really?
Well, we closed the bank at 3
Uh-huh. So then there was time for bowling after
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah, so.
for dinner and bowling.
Okay, I want to go back to
Yes.
your work, I think you mentioned that you also told me that you worked at the gypsum mine.
Yes.
Where was that?
That, you know, when you come to the top of the station hill, there's double gates. You go down that road.
On Bitterwater Road, coming from King City?
Right.
So it was called the gypsum mine?
Right.
What did you do there?
I measured the gypsum, tested it. In those days we had to test gypsum. I don't think they test it now. They call it buffalo gypsum now.
So was that before you went to work at the bank? And was that when your dad gave you that advice about sticking with one job?
Right.
What did he say? Do you have that quote from your dad?
I've got it somewhere here.
I think that was
Oh, he says, old gal, you better settle down and stick with one job or no one will hire you. And so every once in a while I say, Dad, is 44 years good enough?
Wow. So you did stick with one job for 44 years. And in fact, didn't you become the manager of Wells Fargo?
Right. I was a manager for 10 years after Bill died.
Had there been a woman manager up until then? No.
Not in King City.
Yeah.
I don't even think I don't know if there was any woman managers in Wells Fargo then. Wells Fargo was a lot better when it was domiciled up in San Francisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now it's in headquarters are in Minnesota.
Oh, so it was closer to in California
Right.
here. And so then there were other than women bank managers after you, Janice
Right.
Smith and then Linda Randall, but you were the first one here in
Right.
King City. Yeah.
Right.
So, all right, and let's see. I also want to ask you, we talked a little bit about the ration board, and I see that you have here one of the ration tickets. This was long before my time, so I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, well, this was issued to Dad.
To your dad, okay.
Right, and being a mail carrier, he got more stamps than the regular people, and these are his stamps.
Stamps for gas or
These
stamps
are stamps for gas.
For gas.
But we had stamps for everything else too.
Okay, all right. So
But
then he could go then use these to buy gas.
Right. Right.
Oh, that's very
And
interesting.
I kept his.
Most of us in the younger generation don't know anything about that except for maybe water rationing, which they don't want us to use a lot of water, but to be rationed with gas and food and meat. That's very interesting. Well, and I see it says that he was driving a 1935 Ford
Pickup.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh no, that's the car.
Yeah, that's great.
The pickup was
very interesting.
older than a 35, I think. The car was a 35.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you would like to add to our discussion? Anything that you remember about King City or any of the people there that you think might be of interest?
I didn't prepare for that.
Yeah, that's a hard question, but I guess sometimes you can express.
Dr. Hyde.
Oh.
I remember Dr. Hyde. He was my doctor for a long time.
And what do you remember about him? Do you remember when he came to town, or?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. Of course, Ruth was the administrator of the hospital.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Ruth. So how did you meet Ruth?
Well, I think I met Ruth in 1962.
Okay.
My mother was dying of cancer, and Ruth used to come out and give her morphine shots.
Oh.
And I really guess I first met her at the bowling alley.
Okay.
She and Barbara and Billy were there having dinner, and they introduced me to her.
Uh-huh.
So she was the administrator of the hospital, and she was born in Reno. And Ruth will be, if she makes it, will be 95, August 22nd.
My.
Well, she has her good and bad days.
So Ruth really has a long history with medical care in King City.
Right.
Well, anybody who takes care of your mother and helps you is somebody that we probably treasure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in 1965, she came out here to live after Mom passed away, and
Been here ever since, huh?
been here ever since. She was my cook and housekeeper for a long, long time. I loved to garden, and I still crawl around on my hands and knees and garden, even though I can't stand up very long.
And then you have your niece Janet helping you now. Janet's living out here.
You know what? Nancy and Janet both couldn't wait to get out of Bitterwater. They hated it here. All of a sudden, they were at Grass Valley, and all of a sudden, they decided they wanted to come back home. So they both came back home. Nancy and Tim remarried after being divorced for 39 years. That always kills me. And she and Janet bought a house trailer, and she lives down here. And of course, when I'm gone, Nancy and Janet get the house. But I sure am glad they came back home, because they're both a wonderful help to Ruth and myself.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's good. So, living out here in the country, do you always consider yourself a country girl? Did you ever really want to live in King City or San Francisco or someplace like that?
No way.
No way?
No way. The bank wanted to transfer me at different times. And no way. I told them my roots are deep.
They are deep here. Are there things in particular that you like about Bitterwater and about these? Well, are you in Monterey County or are you in San Benito? I was gonna say you're close to the border.
Yeah.
So, if you could describe what it is you like about here, can you put that into a few words or a few sentences?
It's quiet and peaceful. Before the Pinnacles became a national park, we didn't have much traffic, but now it has really increased. Motorhomes are going by all the time. And I love to garden, and there's a big garden, and Janet and I are going to put in our vegetable garden here May 1st.
So, do you think that the fresh air and the country life has helped you live as long as you have?
I think my 2 drinks a night has helped it.
Well,
Other than that,
yeah.
No, I'm sure it has. The good fresh air.
And I hear birds chirping outside.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you have wildlife here, and
We used to bird egg hunt.
you do really?
Really?
What, like doves or pigeons or?
Everything.
Oh, okay. And do you ever have like wild pigs or anything that come into your yard?
Yes, they rip up the lawn all the time. Look at Janet.
Oh, yeah. I was looking around at some of the oak trees, and it looks like, I can see where they've rooted around there. And I know, I know squirrels can be a nuisance, but I think pigs can be a worse nuisance.
Terrible.
Yeah.
They really are.
They tear things up. If you're a gardener, you don't want that.
No.
Yeah.
But thank God Lisa Smith put a fence around here that I don't think the pigs can get into now.
So,
Yes.
I was just thinking back, trying to think of what it was like when your father and mother came here, and what it's like now, and some things probably have not changed. The beauty of the green hills, in the spring, and then the dry in the fall, and probably have times where it's so soppy and wet that you can't get by, and then you have times when it's so dry and hard that it's dusty and dirty. Some of that's probably all the same, but there's obviously now a road that goes by, which is perhaps one of the most scenic, beautiful drives in California, to this road that's right out in front of your place. And do they
Some professional photographer stopped down here and took a picture of the barn. Do you have a picture of that, Shannon? Not now, but show them later.
Yeah, it is a very picturesque place that you have here, and so I can see why you like living out here. It's a very unique country.
And you see why the girls came back.
I think that's wonderful. And when you say that your roots are deep, you obviously have known a lot of people over the years, and
Yes.
made an impact on people's lives.
Spencer was my music teacher.
Okay, Dr. Spencer was at high school?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No, he wasn't a doctor. It was just Spencer.
Yeah.
Mr. Spencer.
Mr. Spencer. Well, I think we're about to the end of our interview, and I want to thank you for your memories. My guess is that now that we've talked about these things, there will be dozens and dozens of more things that will pop into your mind as soon as we're done. But that's okay. We can sometimes do another interview down the road, or you can just write those things down. We encourage people to write down their memories to share with future generations, because you do know and have experienced things that younger generations haven't. So I really appreciate hearing about your memories of King City, because that's where I live and have for 40 years, and my husband was born there, and we think it's a pretty amazing place. So.
And I understand you play the piano?
I do play the piano. That's why I'm always interested in people who are musical. So. Anyway, that's, I think, concludes our interview. So I want to thank you very much, Roberta, and I look forward to having more people hear about the things we've talked about today.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.